Okay, so picture this, all right? A civilization so advanced, so incredibly ahead of us, that it makes, like, Star Trek look like, I don't know, a child's toy.
Yeah, like warp speed is nothing for these guys.
No, I mean, forget warp speed. We're talking about manipulating subatomic particles, creating energy out of thin air, or that would make the greatest human artists just weep with envy, you know?
Yeah, I mean, a true utopia. They've got it all figured out, right?
That's exactly. But here's the thing, and this is what we're diving deep into today. Even these guys, these seemingly perfect aliens, they weren't immune to problems, big problems.
Oh, yeah, problems that nearly destroyed everything they built.
And that's what's so fascinating, right? I mean, what can their story teach us about ourselves? About the pitfalls of progress, the dangers that, well, that maybe even we face here today.
Right, because this isn't just some sci-fi fantasy. There's some seriously real lessons here about societal resilience, about, the dangers of internal corruption.
And our source for all this, well, it's a bit unusual.
It is. We're basing all this on an account from someone who claims they actually met an alien visitor. This visitor, well, they laid out the entire history of their civilization.
Right. And I know, it sounds a little out there, but stick with us, okay? Because even if you're skeptical, and hey, I get it, the details of this story, they're just too thought-provoking to ignore.
Exactly. It's about the big picture. What can we learn from this? Whether it actually happened or not, that's what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Paint us a picture. What made this civilization so remarkable?
Okay, so imagine a society where, well, first off, there's no pollution. They've figured out completely sustainable energy.
No fossil fuels, no fighting over oil, none of that.
None. They're cities. They're like living organisms seamlessly integrated with nature.
Okay, so far so good. It does sound pretty utopian.
Oh, and get this. They have this art form. They call it resonant sculpting.
Resonant sculpting. What's that?
So they use like sound waves and some kind of advanced technology we don't even know to literally shape matter, creating these incredibly intricate, just mind-blowingly beautiful structures.
Wow, okay. That's beyond anything we've even conceived of.
Exactly. But then enter the nomadic cults.
Ah, yes. The wrench in the gears.
Yeah.
The beginning of the end, it seems like.
You could say that. Now, these weren't your average, robes and chanting kind of cult.
No.
No. These guys were hardcore, fiercely anti-technology. They believed any kind of progress, any tampering with nature was a violation of some, cosmic law.
Okay, so basically the Amish on steroids.
Kind of, yeah. But with a much more aggressive, agenda. They traveled the planet, living off the land, sabotaging infrastructure.
Seriously, so how did a bunch of, essentially cavemen take down this super advanced civilization?
Well, you gotta remember, this alien civilization was built on peace, dialogue. They had defenses, sure, but nothing designed for, all-out war.
Makes sense. If you've never faced serious conflict, why would you even think you need a huge army?
Exactly. They were caught totally off guard. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a really sophisticated computer getting infected with a really basic but destructive virus.
A virus they didn't even know how to fight.
Exactly. It's a good analogy.
So this cult weakens them, throws them into chaos, and then boom, another supposedly more advanced civilization shows up.
Yeah, talk about adding insult to injury.
It's like a cosmic mugging. Right.
Basically. And the worst part, this other civilization they'd been watching, learning from our alien friends for centuries, they saw their chance and swooped in, offering help, pretending to be the good guys.
The classic wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly. They took control, exploited everything, used the alien civilization's own knowledge against them.
So finally they break free from these oppressors.
I do, but they're scarred, traumatized. They decide they can never be vulnerable like that again.
Understandable, I guess.
Yes?
But their solution, they go full militaristic.
Yeah, they pour all their resources into building this incredibly powerful military, especially this thing they called the levitating force.
Okay, the levitating force. Break that down for us.
So basically, imagine fighter jets, but 1,000 times more advanced, super fast, maneuverable. They could, levitate, manipulate gravity somehow.
Anti-gravity tech. That's pretty impressive.
It was. But then things went south. Corruption started to fester within the levitating force.
You mean like power corrupts and all that?
More than you'd think. Some members of the levitating force, they started sabotaging their own aircraft.
Wait, what? Why would they do that?
So they could force the civilization to rely on these foreign suppliers for parts, repairs, super expensive, of course. They were basically lining their pockets while making their own people less safe.
That is, I mean, talk about betrayal. The very people they were supposed to trust, the ones with the power to protect them, they were actively working against them.
Exactly. And this is where our alien visitors story gets really intense.
Yeah, because they were worried about their leader, right?
Yeah. The supreme leader of this civilization. A figure they all looked up to, respected, almost worshipped. But the visitor, they believed this corruption, it had spread, it had reached the highest levels, and they were afraid for the leader's life.
Wow. That's heavy stuff. And this is where the visitor's plea for help comes in.
Exactly. They were desperate, shaking our listener's leg, begging for assistance, trying to recruit someone, anyone, to help them fight this internal threat.
It's wild, right? I mean, this incredibly advanced civilization brought down by a nomadic cult and opportunistic invaders, and now they're facing destruction from within.
It's a lot to take in, but it really makes you think, you know? It shows how fragile even the most advanced civilizations can be, and it's a warning
A warning about what?
about the importance of vigilance, of guarding against corruption, of recognizing the signs of decay, whether they're coming from outside or inside, because if it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone.
So what you're saying is we need to learn from their mistakes.
Absolutely. We need to be proactive. Pay attention. Because the seeds of destruction, they can be sown anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, this whole story, it's like a wake-up call, a reminder that progress isn't a guarantee of safety.
Exactly. And that complacency, well, that can be our downfall.
So listeners, that's something to think about. If a civilization that could manipulate subatomic particles and build cities that were practically living beings could fall apart, well, we need to ask ourselves, are we doing enough to protect our own society? Are we paying attention to the right things?
Because the future, well, it's not guaranteed for anyone.
On that note, we'll leave you to ponder this.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know now, knowing how easily even the brightest lights can be extinguished, what steps can we take today to ensure that our light continues to shine?
Think about it.
And until next time, keep exploring.